Hi, we're Ariel,
and Michelle,
and
and
we're
we're
the
the
Board
Board
Game
Game Tutors.
Tutors.
Today we're doing our Advanced Concepts video for the Deep Benders faction from the Summoner Wars Alliances set.
So, before we get started on this whole deck of all the individual cards that will appear in the Deep Benders deck, we also want you to note over here, these are some new tokens. They're called boost markers or boost tokens. Um, they're different from everything else because they have a little plus sign on them and they're blue and purple. So, you use these whenever a character is boosted in your deck. So, we'll get to that later. And also, we wanted to let you guys know one of the cards in the deck, specifically called Gorgons, which is a conjuration in this deck, we feel is not the best representation of art, specifically of women, in Plaid Hat's art choices. So we just wanted to let you know we feel like that those cards in particular, there's only 3 copies of them in the deck, and they actually don't get shuffled into the deck. They're off to the side. We just feel they could have made a better art decision about the Gorgon characters, and specifically in terms of objectifying women. So we just wanted to give you guys a heads up. That card is going to come up when we go over these cards. So use your discernment. If you decide that you want to obscure the image part of that card, go ahead and do that. Obviously, Michelle and I find it somewhat bothersome, but obviously you have to deal with that on a individual basis, whether or not you want to cover those cards, anything like that. So let's go ahead and get started with the rest of the cards. So here's the starting setup card for the Deep Benders. This is all the units that Endrich's deck starts out with. Flip it over on the other side. You can see all his event cards. Over here, you can see it lists conjuration cards, and those are the Gorgons right there. And these actually are not shuffled into your regular deck of cards. And then here's the turn phase summary, as usual. A regular Deep Bender wall right here. Okay. And then here's the first rule card. It's about conjurations. Do you want to go ahead and read that, Michelle?
Okay. Conjuration cards are not shuffled into your deck. Instead, each player that has conjurations listed on his summoner's reference card starts the game with that many of that conjuration in a separate conjuration pile off of the battlefield. Whenever a card instructs a player to place a conjuration of that type, remove a conjuration from that player's conjuration pile and place it where directed. Conjurations are a new type of unit, and so are unaffected by game effects that specifically target commons, champions, or summoners. Conjurations follow all general rules for units, with this exception. A conjuration destroyed by a friendly player is placed in that player's discard pile.
So a few things you need to know about conjurations. These are specifically the Gorgons in the Deep Bender faction. They're not shuffled into your deck, like I just said. You place those 3 cards off to the side, just like you would with Vine Walls. That would be in a separate pile off to the side of the board. And then also, whenever you get an event card that tells you to place that conjuration on the board, you follow the directions on the event card, you place that conjuration. And lastly, they're a new type of unit. They are not common, they are not champions, they are not summoners. So if you have any other event cards in any other army deck that, or any special abilities that affect specifically commons, champions, or summoners, they do not affect conjurations. So conjurations are immune to many effects. However, if a card says all cards around this card or all units around this card, then conjurations would be affected by that ability, by that event card. So just keep that in mind. So the next card is the Gorgon, like we mentioned earlier. So let's go ahead and go over that.
Okay, so Gorgons don't have a summon cost because they're a conjuration. They're brought on the board by event cards, and we're going to see those in the event pile.
Yeah, so we'll learn the specifics of how you get this Gorgon onto the table when we get to the event cards.
So she has an attack value of 1, is a melee fighter, and has 3 hit points. And then her ability is pretty interesting. It's called Death Stare. At the beginning of your turn, place all enemy common units that are adjacent to this Gorgon into your magic pile. So when your opponent sends commons up to attack this Gorgon, if they do so by placing them adjacent to the Gorgon, they're taking a big risk, because if they don't finish the Gorgon off, then at the beginning of your turn, you're going to automatically destroy those common units and put them in your magic pile.
Right. So if there was one here, here, or here, let's say all 3 units were trying to kill the Gorgon, well, they'd have to kill her, because if they don't kill her by the end of their attack phase, then all 3 of those would go into the Gorgon's magic pile over here. So you have to take a risk with that, obviously. For this reason alone, you might just use long range units when fighting against the Gorgon. And another important aspect about the Gorgon is the fact that she has 3 hit points. I think it's a she. Anyway, this weird spirit thing. But one key purpose of this Gorgon is the fact that your summoner, well, as you'll see in a second, he doesn't have very many hit points. So you're going to need the Gorgons in general, not always, to act as interference for your summoner, to literally block the way from anybody running onto your side of the board, getting right next to your summoner, and making a few hits in a quick fashion. So you will use Gorgons primarily, but not only, for defending your summoner, because they will protect him. And occasionally you might send a Gorgon on the offensive, because if somebody puts themselves, if your opponent puts one of their common units, like it says here, common units, next to the Gorgon, then they basically sacrifice that unit if the Gorgon's still alive at the end of the turn. So, and like we said with Conjurations, this card goes all the way over here in the pile of Conjurations off to the side. We have 3 of these, and you don't touch these unless you have the appropriate event card to summon them to the board. Okay. Finally, Endrich.
All right, so he's the summoner. He has an attack value of 3, is a ranged fighter, and has 4 hit points. His ability is called Geopathic Command. At the end of your attack phase, you may choose a boosted common unit you control that is within 3 spaces of Endrich. You may spend 1 magic point to immediately attack with the chosen unit, even if the unit already attacked on this turn.
So, like we said, he only has 4 hit points. That's a pretty low hit point count for a lot of summoners in Summoner Wars. He rolls 3 ranged dice, which is pretty powerful, but he's going to need that to defend himself with. And Geopathic Command. At the end of your attack phase, you may choose a boosted common unit within 3 spaces. So count with me: 1, 2, 3 up here, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So basically a big diamond shaped all about Endrich. He has the ability for boosted common units. So if you have a common unit that has this boost token on it already, they can attack a second time, or attack for the first time, depending upon the order of who you attacked with and when. So basically you have to pay 1 magic for that. So it's pretty straightforward attack overall. You just have to remember it's for common units, and they have to be boosted. In this deck, you can't boost champion units, by the way. You can only boost commons, so you can't mistake that. Basically, you can't use Geopathic Command with champions. But basically, it gives you 1 extra attack. So you have the potential of having 4 attacks instead of 3 normally.
Right, and that does cost 1 magic, as do many things in this deck. A lot of things cost magic.
Okay, so we're going to move on. So now we're moving on to boosting. So this is a really important strategy with the Deep Benders. It's a completely new strategy. Go ahead and read that one for me, Michelle.
Okay. Some cards in this set can be boosted. All of the effects listed after the when boosted text on a card are only in effect if that card is boosted. When a player summons a unit that can be boosted, that player may pay the boost cost associated with that unit by spending magic points equal to that unit's boost cost. If a player pays the boost cost, place a boost marker on that unit. As long as the unit has a boost marker on it, it is considered to be boosted. If a unit is ever destroyed as a result of it becoming no longer boosted, discard that unit instead of placing it in a magic pile. A unit that is boosted can never lose its ability as a result of an opponent's card effect.
So lots of text here, so let's break this down little by little. So like we said, this explains how the different boost markers work. So first thing I want to cover is, well, like we said, only commons can be boosted. Champions cannot be boosted. And so that's important for that. Then here, you can only pay the boost cost of a common when you summon that common. So, for example, this Geopath right here, his boost cost is 1. So his regular cost is 1, but his boosted cost is 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. So when you summon this Geopath to the table, you either have to choose, I'm going to spend 1 magic and just summon a basic Geopath, or I'm going to spend 2 magic and I'm going to summon a boosted Geopath and place this on him to mark the fact that he has been boosted. So one important thing is, the only other way you can boost a unit is by a special event card later on in the deck. But one thing that you need to know in terms of boosting things, let me just see here for a second. Yeah, so you can only pay the magic points when you summon that person. Once this person's on the board, you cannot pay their boost cost later on unless you have the special event card. As long as you okay. So, and as long as the unit has a boost marker on it, it's considered to be boosted. If a unit is ever destroyed as a result of it becoming no longer boosted, discard that unit instead of placing it in a magic pile. So, let's say, for example, one of these other common units, they get more life when they are boosted. And so, if they were boosted and they had damage, this wouldn't be the case for the Geopath because he doesn't gain any. He doesn't
gain more life when he's boosted.
Right. So let's say this was another one of the commons, and he was boosted, and he had 2 wounds on him. Let's just pretend with a boost cost he had 3. Let's just pretend. It's not the case, but let's just pretend. And so he would be alive at this point because he has 2 wounds, not 3. But if he ever lost this boost token because of something that Endrich's deck did to him, he would now be dead because he no longer has the 3 hit points anymore. So yeah, this is a hypothetical situation. So we'll show you in a later example what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And also, essentially, all of these common units, they have no ability if they do not have a boost token on them. That's what you need to know. They have nothing besides what their stats say. So basically, ignore this box if you did not put a boost marker on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you never start out the game with boosted units at the beginning. They're all basic common units. And also, once this boost marker is on this card, nothing your opponent can do can remove this boost token. So only you could unboost this character.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another important distinction. So that was all the boost rules. We'll go over them specifically when we get to the commons. So here's the first one, the Geopath. Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, so he has the summon cost of 1, an attack value of 1, is a ranged fighter, and has 1 hit point. And so his ability is Geopath Boost, boost cost 1. When boosted, add 1 to this Geopath's attack value. When attacking with this Geopath, you may attack cards that are up to 5 clear straight line spaces away. So the Geopath gets 2 benefits from being boosted. One is that he now rolls 2 dice instead of 1, and the other is that he can now shoot 5 spaces away, 5 clear straight line spaces away instead of the usual 3.
And as we said, he does not gain health. In the hypothetical example that we said, which actually applies to other characters in the commons of this deck, he had 3, but he only has 1, and this never changes, no matter what you do to him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the Geopath's card.
Okay, then the Gem Priestess. She has a summon cost of 1, an attack value of 1, is a melee fighter, and has 2 hit points when not boosted. And then the Gem Priestess boost, the boost cost is 2, and when boosted, add 2 to this Gem Priestess's life value. After moving with this Gem Priestess, you may spend 1 magic point to remove 1 wound marker from every friendly common and champion unit that is adjacent to this Gem Priestess.
So, important thing to note, this is the example I was telling you about before. If you boost her when you first summon her, or you use an event card to do so, now she no longer has 2 hit points, she has 4 hit points. So just imagine filling those 2 up. So she has 4 hit points. So this is the example I was talking about. If she had 3 wounds done to her, she would still be alive while boosted. But if the boost token ever came off because of something you, the controlling player, did, she would now be dead, and get discarded, I believe.
Yeah, she wouldn't go to anyone's magic pile.
Yeah, she would go directly to discard in this case, because she could take that damage when she was boosted, but if she is no longer boosted, then she can no longer take that damage.
Mm-hmm.
And the other important thing about her is after moving with this Gem Priestess, so you have to move her first. You can move her 1 or 2 spaces, for example. And this is a tricky part with the Gem Priestess. So let's just say, as you can see here, common or champion. This does not work on Endrich, so you cannot heal him using the Gem Priestess's boost ability. So let's just pretend Endrich isn't a summoner right now. And so she moved forward 1, and Endrich was already here. She can spend 1 magic, and anyone who is currently next to her new position, not her original position, her new position here. Anybody who is here, here, or here, she can spend 1 magic point. This Gem Priestess can spend 1 magic point and heal all of them for 1 damage. So he could be healed if he was a champion or a common unit. He could be healed, and he could be healed. So that is pretty useful, but hard to orchestrate. Because like we said, she has to stop in a position where she can help multiple people. So you'd have to get a configuration like that to really maximize the use of this ability.
Yeah, so you can get all that healing for exactly 1 magic point. So if you spend 1 and heal 1 person, that might still be worth it, but it's best if she can have more people next to her. And this is only commons or champions, right? So not only does it not apply to the summoner, but it also doesn't apply to conjurations.
Right. So conjurations aren't affected by this. That's another important thing. And yeah, especially the summoner is not affected by this. Obviously, that would be really helpful for Endrich because he doesn't have that many hit points, but this is not allowed, basically, for summoners.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the Gem Priestess. And yeah, and her attack value does not go up, as opposed to the Geopath, whose attack value does go up when he's boosted.
Right. Then we have the Deep Dragon, which costs 1 magic to summon, has an attack value of 2, is a melee fighter, and has 1 hit point. And of course, that's when he isn't boosted. And then for the Deep Dragon boost, that costs 2. Its boost cost is 2. When boosted, add 2 to this Deep Dragon's life value. When moving with this Deep Dragon, you may move it 1 additional space. So just like the other boosted units, he gets basically 2 benefits whenever he's boosted. So he gets 2 more life value, so he would then have 3 hit points total. And he can move 1 additional space when he moves when boosted. So those are both pretty straightforward.
So instead of moving 2 spaces, he can move 3 while boosted. And something else I just want to reiterate over again. For these 3 common units, if they are not boosted, they have no ability besides their regular stats. So this Deep Dragon still rolls 2, but these only roll 1. And as you can see, to summon any one of these cards onto the field, it's only 1 magic each. But when you summon, you need to decide, am I going to use this boost cost, thereby making this Deep Dragon 3, making this Gem Priestess 3, or this Geopath 2. So as you can see, you can spend a lot of magic on your common units, and yeah, lose a lot of your cards that way.
Yeah, so it gets expensive.
So you just have to really do careful hand management here, because you don't know, well, what's the next card that's coming up? Maybe I want to use it for a champion. How do I respond to the current situation that I'm fighting right now? So you just have to use your best discernment in terms of how do I attack or defend in this particular situation.
Mm-hmm. Then here's the first champion,
Mm-hmm.
Kodel. She has a summon cost of 5, an attack value of 2, is a ranged fighter, and has 5 hit points. Her ability is Geopathic Charge. At the beginning of your attack phase, you must spend 1 magic point for each common unit that is adjacent to Kodel. If you cannot, discard Kodel. Common units you control add 1 to their attack value when adjacent to Kodel. So this is an interesting ability. We've had a hard time kind of figuring out how to make it really useful. Because it's expensive that everyone she's next to at the beginning of her attack phase, every common unit, you have to spend a magic point for.
So this doesn't apply to Conjurations or other champions. But basically, what you want to keep in mind for her is the fact that either you summon her next to a wall where there are no commons, adjacent to her. So let's say this wall is here. You want to summon her to a point adjacent to a wall where there are no commons immediately adjacent to her, so you don't have to take care of that. Or if you do summon Kodel next to a wall where there is a common next to her the second that she comes onto the battlefield, you do need to take this into account because she costs 5, but you have to spend 1 magic point for each common unit adjacent to her where she is immediately summoned.
Well, this is at the beginning of your attack phase, though, so she can have moved.
So she could have moved. Yeah, that is true. So you just have to plan in advance. So if she is next to one person at the beginning of her attack phase, so they have the ability to move. So they don't have to be right next to her. So that is true. She could be here, for example, and then she's not adjacent to anybody. But at the beginning of the attack phase, if she's next to anyone, you need to have that magic in your hand already, or you will lose her immediately.
Right.
So, and also, this does help boost your common units and give them more attack. So, this is one strategy that you would use, but just keep in mind, like Michelle said, you have a movement phase first, and then her ability comes into effect.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you can tell here, with the champions, they do have an ability right from the get-go when they're summoned onto the field, as opposed to the commons. And like we said before in the rules for the commons, once this unit is boosted, this common unit is boosted, nothing can take away your ability. Anything your opponent can do anyway. So that's that. All right.
Okay.
Next champion.
The Owl Griffin costs 7 magic to summon, has an attack value of 3, is a melee fighter, and has 6 hit points. And his ability is Conserve. Instead of attacking with both Owl Griffin and your summoner this turn, remove 1 card from the top of your discard pile and place it on top of your magic pile.
Okay, so for this one, we were a little confused by it for a little while, but we looked it up and we did confirm. It's essentially the same thing as Tundle's special ability. You cannot, but it's more limiting in terms of the fact that Endrich and the Owl Griffin cannot attack on the same turn that you use Conserve. So you have to say, I'm not attacking with Owl Griffin, I'm not attacking with Endrich, and I'm only choosing one other unit. So you can't use either the Owl or Endrich. So basically, you can only attack with one person. So that doesn't mean you can choose 3 other commons and attack with them. You can't attack with him, so you give up 1 attack. You can't attack with Endrich, you give up your second attack. So you only have one other champion or conjuration or common unit that can attack. And that is all. So you just have to be careful. You only have 1 attack with this.
Yeah, and so that's one option is to use Conserve. So then you only do up to 1 attack, and then you transfer a card from the top of your discard pile to the top of your magic pile. Or you can, on that turn, and instead of doing that, you can just use the Owl Griffin or do normal attacks. Basically, Conserve is an option when the Owl Griffin is on the board.
So yeah, and he is a summon cost of 7, which, as we've said already, this deck really eats into your magic pile, so you have to carefully plan what you're doing from turn to turn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Now the last champion is Kendre, or I'm not sure exactly how you say that.
Mm-hmm.
His summon cost is 4. He has an attack value of 3, is a ranged fighter, and has 3 hit points. Redistribute is his special ability. After moving with Kendre, you may choose a boosted unit you control within 3 spaces of Kendre. Remove the boost marker from the chosen unit and place it on any other unit that can be boosted. So, simply put, Kendre can transfer a boost marker from one common to another.
So let's say, for example, you can use this to kind of do like a sneak attack with the enemy. So let's see here. So after moving with Kendre, so let's just assume that he moved this turn. And so now, after moving with him, you may choose a boosted unit. Let's just say this Geopath was already boosted before he moved. So Kendre moved from here to here. So he moved. Now he can choose this unit because it's 3 spaces away. 1, 2, 3 spaces away. And he can use his Redistribute special ability. which means he can take this boost marker off of this unit. And so this is another way that you might remove a boost marker from someone. If you use Kendre's redistribute ability and his health was affected in such a way that he would die, then he would get discarded then. So that's another way that could happen. But if you move this boost marker to anyone else that can be boosted. So if you have a deep dragon on this far side of the table over here, you can move it all the way over there. The second card that you choose is not limited by distance. The first card is, the second one isn't. So that'll help you. That can help you make a non-boosted unit that's farther away, if it's still alive, obviously. That can give them boost special abilities and basically help you attack the enemy summoner. So that is one possible strategy that you can use with Kendre. And also, he rolls 3 dice at range, which is always fun and pretty powerful in general. So those were all the units. Let's go on to the cards.
Okay, so one of the event cards is Conjure Gorgon, and there are 3 of these, I think. Yep, there are 3. So spend 1 magic point to place 1 Gorgon from your conjuration pile on an unoccupied space adjacent to your summoner. So one of the things that makes Gorgons unique is that they're conjured beside your summoner, not next to a wall. And so you spend 1 magic point when you do this.
And you can choose any adjacent space to Endrich, not diagonals, just like usual. So you could place the Gorgon here, you could place the Gorgon here, etc., etc., here, here. So ironically, even though the Gorgon card says it has no summon cost, it technically does have a summon cost of 1. So
it's just conjured rather than summoned, basically.
Yeah, I don't know what the difference in the verb there means, but anyway, so that's that. Conjure Gorgons. Pretty straightforward event card. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one.
Okay. Teleport. Choose a boosted Deep Bender unit that you control. The chosen unit may exchange places with your summoner.
So, like I said, how Kendre could move a boost token around to one person within 3 spaces of him, to any other boostable unit on the board. You could use this as a crushing blow, but I think in general you wouldn't use this in general. But let's say you might have this teleport card used in such a way that Endrich could switch places with a boosted unit. So literally they exchange places. He goes where the boosted unit was, the boosted unit goes where he was. So one situation that you might use this in is if Endrich was cornered, he was being surrounded by enemy units, and you had a boosted common unit on the other side of the board, you might use that to exchange places, so that way Endrich isn't currently in danger anymore. Obviously, one major strategy you're going to have to use with Endrich is surrounding him with his own units in a strategic way so nobody can get to him.
Right.
To do ranged attacks or melee attacks. So that's one thing you have to do. But if you ever got into a really tough situation, you do have this teleport card as an option. But then again, you have to have it in your hand to use at that time. So it doesn't work on basic common units. It has to be boosted. Or sometimes you might want to use this card. I started to say this a few seconds ago, like 30 seconds ago. Basically, you might want to use this ability to have Endrich end up dealing the final blow to the enemy summoner. Obviously, that's really risky because you're probably putting your Endrich, your summoner, into a really vulnerable position to do the killing blow. But it's pretty cool to be able to teleport your summoner across the board and attack. I've never successfully done that, but that is a possibility with teleport. And you have 2 of these in your deck.
Okay. Then we have Unlock. Choose up to 2 units you control that can be boosted but are not currently boosted. Place a boost marker on each of the chosen units. So this is the way that you can boost units without paying the magic to do so and when they're already on the board. And you have 2 of these cards in the deck.
So one important thing about this is, so let's say, for example, I summoned the Deep Dragon, and go over here. There you go. I summoned the Deep Dragon and the Geopath this turn, and they're next to this wall, for example. I could spend 1 magic for the Geopath, 1 magic for the Deep Dragon, and then immediately following my summon phase, during my play event card phase, I can play Unlock. This is what you'll typically do, and the 2 units that you just summoned for 1. Now you didn't have to pay 1 more plus 2 more. All you had to do was play this event card. They're both boosted now. So that is a common thing that you will be doing with this deck. So Unlock is a very useful card to make use of. And obviously, let's say you had 4 different units on the board that could be boosted. If you had both of your Unlock cards at the same time, you can play them during the same event phase. You just, obviously, especially given the fact that this deck really hogs magic, you really want to use Unlock only when you can unlock 2 units. Unless you're really, really desperate and you really need an unlocked unit right now, and you can only do it on 1, that's the only time I would ever use for that. But in general, I would always use this for 2, because you're not maximizing the use of the card if you don't have 2 boostable units on the board.
And then finally, we have Reclaim. And there are 2 copies of this in the deck. Choose any number of boosted units that you control. Remove the boost marker from the chosen units. Remove a number of cards from the top of your discard pile equal to the boost cost of the chosen units and place those cards on top of your magic pile. So basically, this lets you reverse what you did when you boosted the units earlier. It lets you unboost them and take back the magic and put it back on your magic pile.
There is no limit to this. So basically, you don't want to play 2 Reclaim cards at once because they don't stack together. This has no limit to the number of boosted units that you could reclaim their boost marker from. So let's do the example here. So if I claim this boost marker from this Geopath and this boost marker from the Deep Dragon, the boost cost is 1, the boost cost is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. You go to your discard pile, you go 1, 2, 3. And these go back into your magic. So that's how Reclaim works. So some of our basic recommendations about this deck are: Endrich is really weak. He only has 4 hit points. You need to use your people as living shields for Endrich to prevent the enemy from getting to him. And also, it's probably not a wise decision to put Endrich in this configuration right here, where let's say like you do this. So you think Endrich is safe, but if your enemy sends a melee fighter here and attacks this Deep Dragon and kills it, and they have a ranged fighter here, they can still hit Endrich. So obviously, you need to keep him safe. Behind walls is a smart option. Obviously, you need to move him and attack with him sometimes, but do not be tempted by his 3 ranged ability. Only use that defensively. Most of the time, if he goes on the offensive, unless you're sure that you can win, let's say your enemy summoner only has 1 hit point remaining before that summoner dies, then you could use the teleport ability for Endrich and then attack, because rolling 3 dice, you have really good chances that one of them will be successful.
Right.
So you just have to be careful with him, because he can die very, very fast. And yeah, basically using your men as shields and using your Gorgons to protect Endrich as a primary objective. And yeah, another cautionary note, you need to use magic very carefully with this deck, because like we said, the Owl Griffin alone uses 7 magic points. The expensive commons are 3 magic points each if you decide to boost them regularly. And yeah, so you will be using a lot of magic in this deck, so you just need to be prepared that a lot of times you're going to feel like you don't have enough magic, so you need to use your magic wisely.
All right, so those are the Deep Benders, a very interesting faction from the new Summoner Wars Alliances set.
If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, please let us know. And yeah, please subscribe to our channel, The Board Game Tutors, on YouTube for more content like this. And yeah, we appreciate all your feedback, guys, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.
Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.